friends. Welcome to Foggy Oak Fairy Tales, a stories podcast for all ages, where we tell farm stories from real life happenings on Foggy Oak Farm, as well as fantasy tales to spark both learning and imagination. I'm so glad you're here. This month's episode is an adaptation of a fairy tale found in several cultures. You may know it by Why the Sea is Salt. In this adaptation, a young woman trades for a magic quern or a hand mill that can produce anything she requests. It's a story where sharing and selflessness are rewarded, and greed and selfishness reap what they have sown. I hope you enjoy my twist on this classic tale. Once upon a time and long ago, a brother and sister grew up working side by side in the fields of their family farm. They got along well, and the land and their animals prospered under their care. When their father died, by that country's law of primogeniture, which is a system of inheritance where the eldest male offspring receives estates and titles, the farm went to the brother. Also, by the laws of that time, the sister, who had been considered her father's property when he was alive, now became the property of her brother. Like mist in the morning sun, the easy warmth of their partnership tending the farm evaporated with their father's death. The brother became cold, demanding, and selfish. In the middle of a cold winter, he booted his sister from the house and ordered her to sleep in the barn with only the animals for warmth. Where they had shared decades of plentiful meals around the table, she was now relegated to sharing scraps with the pigs. When her brother was in a foul mood, he hit and kicked her viciously. And, what was worse from her perspective, he did the same to the animals. It was a shock, and it was shocking, and there was nothing at all that the sister could do about it. Now, there's a kind of fairy creature called a brownie who likes to live in secret amongst humankind and help them tend to their homes and animals and chores if the home and animals are well loved and tended. In their many years of working together, the siblings, especially the sister, had attracted several to the farm. The brownies were horrified at this cruel turn of events and soon took pity on the freezing hungry sister who had, in spite of everything, continued to provide loving and careful care for the animals and the land. One evening, as the sister stumbled into the barn, gray with exhaustion and hunger, she heard a little voice calling to her. "Little sister," the brownie said, "hear me and do as I say, and all shall be well for you." Who are you?" the woman asked, looking around in astonishment. "I didn't think I had a friend in the world." The brownie was too shy to appear before her, but answered simply, "One of your farm's brownies and your friend. For the care you've shown this place and these animals, and for the care I have for you, I shall help you. Now, do as I say, and you'll see. This very evening, as soon as the lights in the house go dark, you take this package of bacon," and at that the brownie dropped a large package neatly wrapped in cloth down from the hayloft, "and you make your way to the dwarves who live in the nearby mountain. When you see them, you offer them this bacon in exchange for the magic quern they've gotten a hold of. Dwarves love bacon and have trouble getting it, since they can't keep animals easily in their mountain, and no one much likes dealing with them because they're so surly and difficult. They'll go mad for that bacon, and they won't care about the quern. They took it from us brownies long ago, and have never known how to use it. But we do, and we'll teach you how to use it too. Now hurry on your way so you can be back before the sun rises. We have much to do." The sister was cold, hungry, and desperately sad. If in other circumstances she might have thought more about setting out on a quest given to her by a disembodied voice in the barn, well, she wasn't living in other circumstances. She was living in this one, where there was little hope of things improving without some kind of magic. A magical quern or hand mill didn't seem like the solution to all her problems, but it might come in handy if it could help her grind grain faster, which was, in truth, a chore she hated. Regardless, any chance at a better life was worth taking. So she leapt into action with a desperate surge of energy. She tucked the cloth-wrapped package of bacon under her arm and waited impatiently in the door of the barn until she saw her brother's candlelight snuffed out. Then she rushed off into the night towards the foot of the mountain that had always towered over the farm. Luck and the moon were with her to speed her journey and light her way. Her progress was so rapid that scarcely an hour had passed before she found herself at the base of the mountain, where, to her surprise, a great brass door was suddenly visible. "That has to be it," she said, stepping cautiously forward. Taking a deep breath to steady herself, she lifted the heavy door knocker and clanged it firmly against the door. The door gave off a deep, resonant gong that reverberated into the heart of the mountain before her. With a noise like that, it was no more than a moment before the door swung inwards, revealing a stout, magnificently bearded dwarf, who peered at her with some suspicion. "We saw you coming with that package," the dwarf said bluntly, not bothering to greet her. "We made it so you could see the door. That wouldn't happen to be bacon, now would it?" His voice had turned wheedling. Why, yes, it is. Bacon from our farm's best and tastiest pigs," the sister confirmed. "I'd be happy to trade you for it." She could see that several other dwarves had appeared behind the doorkeeper, eyes alight with excitement, noses eagerly inhaling the scent of the bacon. "Don't give her more than a brass goblet," one called out. "Certainly not more than a short sword," another suggested. Before the doorkeeper could make an offer, the sister smiled sweetly and said, "Oh, well, that all sounds far too nice, even if this is the best bacon in 7 counties. I had something a little more plain in mind. Have you a quern that's been sitting around for a very long time, by any chance?" "What a fool!" she heard a dwarf attempt to whisper to his fellows. "That quern isn't good for a thing. It's never worked right." "We'll give it to her before she changes her mind," another ordered the doorkeeper. A moment," the doorkeeper said, his voice dripping with insincere servility. He disappeared for a few minutes while the other dwarves crowded the doorway, drooling and mooning over the thought of so much delicious, fresh bacon that would soon be frying up for their dinner. The doorkeeper reemerged, elbowing his way through the throng and lugging 2 heavy circular stones with a wooden rod protruding from the top one. "Well, here's your quern, then. We've had it for an age, and I'll warn you fairly that we've never had any luck with it. It's fur hard to even turn, let alone get it to grind anything, but a deal's a deal." He held the stones out to her. The sister handed the package of bacon over to one of the dwarves who had stepped forward to oversee the exchange, and took the heavy stones in place of the package. "That's all right," she gasped out, struggling under the weight of the stones. "I'll just get these home now. Thank you for the trade." Not wanting to risk her changing her mind, the dwarves rushed back into the mountain with the bacon and slammed the door closed with a resounding thud. When the sister glanced away for a moment and looked back, the door was gone, no longer visible to her at all. With a wheezy chuckle, she set off back home, opting to roll the stones of the quern before her rather than attempt to carry them the entire way. The quern rolled along easily enough, and she used the handle to speed things up a bit. The stones somehow stayed nicely together, and although it wasn't exactly easy, she made it back to the barn within a couple of hours. "Well done, little sister," the brownie cheered when she rolled into the barn and carefully settled the quern onto the floor before flopping down in an exhausted heap herself. "Thank you, friend, but won't you show yourself to me now?" the sister asked. "Oh, very well," the brownie agreed, stepping out from behind a large barrel where it had concealed itself. The woman smiled at the creature, who was about as tall as a goat and equally hairy. "I need to show you how to use it anyway," it commented, walking over to the quern and grasping the handle. "Shall I fetch you some grain to grind?" the girl asked, starting to rise. No, child, I told you it's a magic quern. You don't need to give it anything. It gives you things. Now, when you want to use it, simply ask it for what you'd like to have and bid it grind. You look fair famished, so let's start with some food." The brownie bent down a bit to grasp the handle of the top quern stone and intoned, "Grind me meat and grind me bread. Grind me a feast, so we'll be fed. Grind it good and grind it fast." Then the brownie gave the handle of the top stone a good turn. As soon as the stone revolved all the way around, it began spinning faster and faster all by itself. And as it spun, delicious food began pouring out from the small crack between the two stones. Sausages and crusty breads and sharp cheeses and rich ciders and on and on and on until the brownie and the girl were almost entirely surrounded by a delicious feast. "Oh, my friend, I think that's enough," the sister cried. "I suppose you're right," the brownie agreed. "Mind that this quern will grind until you bid it cease, which you do like so. You ground it good and ground it fast. With all our thanks, make this turn your last." The quern had slowed its production as soon as the brownie began to speak, ceasing entirely by the time the brownie finished. "Incredible," the sister declared. "This will help ever so much on the farm, though I'm certain that my brother would never allow me to keep it if he knew about it." "We'll cross that bridge when we come to it," the brownie said. "For now, let's put this quern out of the way and enjoy some of the feast." And that is just what they did. Over the coming days, the sister used the quern to grind out new horseshoes and tack for the horses, which was desperately needed, good healthy food for herself and all the animals, new seed for her to plant in the spring, boards and nails to patch up the barn, blankets to sleep under, clothes to wear, and batches of money that she distributed to all her neighbors in the dark of night when no one would know who was leaving it. She also set aside and hid enough money that she'd be able to leave and live comfortably as soon as she had the chance. She didn't want to go away and leave the animals with no one to tend them, since she knew her brother wouldn't take good care of them. So she began working and planning for a day when she could find a farmhand, turn things over, and get out. In the meantime, everything she did was done to make things better. However, all of these improvements could only go unnoticed for so long. Her brother became suspicious of the recent changes and decided to spy on her. He watched as she bade the quern grind out another batch of money for her to take to her neighbors.
"Aha! So she's the reason that so many of my neighbors are sporting warmer clothing and better food on their tables than I. I'll teach her a lesson she won't soon forget."
And the brother snuck away, planning to steal the quern when she was sleeping. But what he didn't do was wait long enough to learn how she told the quern to stop what it was doing. He also was not aware of the brownie, who watched from the shadows and listened to everything he said. As soon as the selfish brother snuck away, the brownie warned the sister of what was to happen. "I've been dreading this day, but I think I have a plan, if you don't mind losing the quern stone," she said to the brownie. "If it gets rid of that awful boy, it'll be a good trade," the brownie hissed. So the sister stopped the quern and walked to the house. When she knocked timidly on the door, her brother answered with a scowl.
"What do you want?"
he sneered. "Brother, I went to town earlier today to sell eggs, and I wanted to bring you the coins," his sister said, ducking her head and holding out the coins. "I almost asked if I could get paid for them in salt, though," she said.
"Why on earth would you do that, you stupid creature?" he laughed.
"Oh, it's only that everyone was saying how salt is worth double its weight in gold right now," she replied. "Apparently, a great ship sank on its way to bring salt to the kingdom, and now no one has enough of it. Why, I even heard someone saying the king would give a noble title and lands to anyone who could bring him a shipment of salt this week." She gave a little laugh as her brother took the coins and added, "Imagine who could fill a boat with salt and deliver it to the king's palace around here." Then she turned and walked back to the barn, hoping her plan would work. That night, as she lay in the barn pretending to sleep, she heard her brother sneak into the stall where she kept the quern and load it into their farm wagon. She heard him hitching one of their horses to the wagon and driving off into the night, and she allowed herself to fall asleep with a smile, confident her plan would indeed work. The next morning, when she went into town, the market was abuzz with gossip. In the night, someone had taken one of the local merchants' ships from the harbor and launched it out to sea. Ships coming in that morning had reported the ship was headed towards the palace, which was a couple days' journey down the coast, captained by only a single man, and absolutely heaping with what appeared to be salt. So much so that the salt was spilling over the sides and into the water. The arriving merchants couldn't believe the wastefulness or the decision to sail a large boat with only one man. Between the merchants, the villagers, and the horse and cart left at the dock, they soon pieced together what had happened. As they stood there discussing the brothers' terrible decision-making, another ship finished docking, and the captain ran down the gangplank into the square.
"Well, here's a story," he began, addressing the entire assembled crowd. "I tried to save a ship that was going down on my way here this morning. Single lad sailing an enormous load of salt that seemed like it just kept growing and growing. When I hailed him, the ship was bellying down so low in the water it was near about to sink. I offered to bring him onto my ship, since his was clearly going down, and he told me to mind my own business and stay away from his priceless cargo. Said he was gonna be made a prince for all this salt. Then he held up some kind of quern that sure looked to me like it was turning itself and absolutely spewing salt higher and higher and higher. And before I could even try and persuade him to change his mind, his ship was overwhelmed and down it went with him in it. Strangest thing I've ever seen. He never would let go of that hand mill, and it spitting salt the whole time as both them went down."
The captain continued his remarks as he shuffled over to the nearest pub, and as he moved away, snippets of "strangest thing I've ever seen" and "what was that lad thinking" could be heard. The remaining crowd nearby all gave the sister pitying looks. Everyone knew the brother had been awful to her, well, awful to everyone, frankly, and no one blamed the sister for his misdeed in stealing the ship. They even insisted that she take the cart and horse back to the farm. After all, the poor woman would be on her own now, with no other family to care for her. She needed all the help she could get. Well, that's a sad end to a sorry life, one of her neighbors commented, putting a gentle hand on her shoulder. You get yourself home and have a nice cup of tea and some supper and get rest. I'll come along in the morning to help you some. The sister thanked her, took the horse and cart back home, and told the brownie the whole tale. I had hoped he'd learn a lesson and just jump ship, but he was greedy and selfish even until the end, she said sadly. I'm sorry for how it ended, but I'm content that you're free to tend this farm, clear and in your own kind way henceforth, the brownie murmured. And so it was. Together, the sister and Brownie lovingly tended the animals and the farm, and between their careful shepherding and the money and goods the sister had stored away from her late night work with the quern, they were able to live quite happily ever after. As for the quern, why, it's lying at the bottom of the ocean to this day and will be churning out salt until someone manages to retrieve it. That, my friends, is why the sea is saltwater. The end. Thanks so much again for supporting this podcast. I'll see you again soon. And until then, stay well and safe. And I hope you have time and space to find some magic out there in the world.